Good evening. Welcome to California Today. I'm David Zhang. Here is a preview of some of today's top stories. A Los Angeles County prosecutor is now seeking a $1.3 million in attorney fees. This comes after she was awarded $1.5 million in a retaliation lawsuit against District Attorney George Gascon in March. Members of United Teachers Los Angeles overwhelmingly approved a new contract with LA Unified. It will raise the average teacher salary to $106,000, a 21% wage increase over 3 years. And as Title 42 sets to expire at midnight tonight, U.S. Customs and Border Patrols face not only a looming migrant crisis, but also a daunting task to inspect billions of imported flower stems for the upcoming Mother's Day. First up, Senator Dianne Feinstein says she is ready to resume her duties, but with a lighter schedule. Feinstein missed nearly 3 months due to health reasons. The 89-year-old says she is still experiencing some vision and balance problems, but she is hopeful those issues will subside as her health improves. Feinstein had faced growing calls to resign during her months-long absence, most notably from fellow California Democrats and the New York Times editorial board. Her absence made it impossible to pass some of President Joe Biden's judicial nominees. Democrats are expected to need every vote they can get in the upcoming fight to raise the debt ceiling. That put even more pressure on Feinstein to either return or resign. A veteran Los Angeles County prosecutor who won her lawsuit against the county is now seeking over $1 million for her attorney fees. But the county pushes back and demands a retrial.
Earlier this year, the Los Angeles Superior Court handed down a verdict in favor of veteran Deputy District Attorney Sean Randolph for her 2021 lawsuit against the county. Randolph initially sued the county after she was denied important jobs as a retaliation for her complaints about the directives set forth after the 2020 election of District Attorney George Gascon. The court awarded her a sum of $1.5 million for emotional stress. Her victory is the first of nearly 20 such cases that have been filed by prosecutors and are still awaiting trial. On May 8th, Randolph's attorneys filed additional court papers seeking $1.3 million for her attorney's fees. The filing states, quote, "This court should exercise its discretion to award attorney's fees to Randolph in a manner that would best effectuate the purposes of the whistleblower statute." A hearing on the county's motions is scheduled for June 2nd. Bill Thomas, NTD News, Los Angeles.
A former Internal Revenue Service agent has been charged for a scheme that defrauded $3 million in COVID-19 pandemic relief money. 58-year-old Frank Mosley is one of the 6 people accused of obtaining money from the Federal Payroll Protection Program in 2021 and 2022. They submitted phony loan applications for funds that were intended to help keep small businesses afloat. He is charged with a conspiracy to commit bank fraud and aiding or advising a false tax return. If convicted, he could face up to 33 years in federal prison. Back in Los Angeles, after a 3-day strike in March and negotiations, the United Teachers Los Angeles and the Los Angeles Unified School District agreed to give employees a 21% salary increase.
The United Teachers Los Angeles, or UTLA, and the Los Angeles Unified School District, or LAUSD, approved a new contract that will give employees a 21% salary increase. According to the agreement, average teacher salaries will rise to approximately $106,000. For the next 3 years, the terms will also include reduced class sizes, staff increases, and immigration support. In an April statement by the UTLA, Union President Cecily Miarta-Cruz says, quote, "We are extremely proud of the progress we made, and we sincerely hope school districts across the country are able to envision what's possible when educators and student families are viewed as partners, not obstacles." Miarta-Cruz believes the new contract will help set a national standard for all other educators where students are supported in a healthy learning environment.
Also in Los Angeles, arrests for property theft doubled this time of the year compared to 2022. from 600 to 1,200. And according to Police Chief Michael Moore, violent crime has seen a reduction. Here is his update this month on LA crime trends.
Regarding our crime picture, we continue to see reductions in violent crime in all categories. We have a 23% reduction in homicides, a 16% reduction in robberies, and a 6.5% reduction in aggravated assaults. Overall, our total violent crime is down 10.7%. That's just under 1,100 fewer violent crimes. Over a period of time going back to 2019, we now stand at a 1.8% reduction overall. Our challenges continue to be where we have a 12% increase in homicides going back to 2019 and a 22% increase in shots fired and a 21% increase in victim shots. So we're seeing reductions this year versus the last few years in violence, as well as in the majority of our property crimes. However, when we go back to the pre-COVID years, we're tracking that information very closely in our efforts to working with our community, working with all stakeholders, the strategies, our partners, to regain, if you will, those decades-low crime numbers that we experienced just a few short 3 years ago.
Now, as Title 42 expires at midnight, migrants are not the only reason the border is active now. Cut flower stems are causing authorities to be busy as bees as they inspect them ahead of Mother's Day.
Flowers get imported overseas, and the U.S. Customs and Border Protection wants to make sure they are free of pests and diseases that could harm our agricultural industry and economy.
What we do is we process them. Our agriculture specialists verify that there are no pests. If there are no pests, they're good to go to the market. If they do find pests, what they do is they go ahead and intercept the pest, put it in a vial, and submit it to our local United States Department of Agriculture identifiers to see if the pests are prohibited or if they're actionable, meaning that they are bad into the country or it's not a problem into the country.
About 80% of cut flowers purchased in the U.S. are imported from Ecuador, Colombia, Australia, and the Netherlands.
We sample from different growers and varieties, and then we look for the leaves, things like diseases or fragile noxious weeds in it, and then we knock it a little bit to get all the insects out.
Ramirez said last year around this time, they processed over 36 million stems.
So last year we had over 300 pest interceptions. Out of those 300, 100 were actionable, meaning we had to either destroy, re-export, or treat the shipment. So it depends on what the pest comes out, and they tell us what we do at that point.
Depending on how big the shipment is, the processing can take from an hour to 4 hours. According to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, they have inspected over 1 billion cut flowers ahead of Mother's Day.
We'll take a short break now, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. California has been known for its renowned cannabis production, but now the cannabis industry is in a free fall, and farmers brace for impact. A former state senator shares some insights with California Insider into why some laws that don't seemingly make sense but get passed in the state legislature. And we'll take a look at the new renewable energy trend that has been popular in Asia and now catching on in the U.S. Those stories and more coming up on California Today. The state has been known for its renowned cannabis production, but now the cannabis industry is in a free fall, and farmers are bracing for the impact.
Several municipalities in Northern California are making plans for a significantly reduced tax revenue as a result of a wholesale cannabis market crash. Fresh harvests were once selling for over $4,000 per pound. Now, bulk buyers are shopping in the $300 to $500 per pound range. Industry insiders say the price represents a sharp drop from recent years. According to experts, some growers have reported that they've had to clear out their crops for less than $200 per pound, fearing they would be stuck with the product. Rachel Green, a longtime grower in Mendocino and Humboldt counties, told the Epic Times that the passage of Proposition 64 in 2016 led to the rapid price decline. Green says it was a combination of a lot of people getting in the game and the old corporate warfare model of operating at a loss to drown out the competition. Prop 64 legalized the sale of recreational marijuana and created the framework to regulate and manage the industry. According to farmers, legitimate and illegitimate family businesses were severely affected by the plunge in profits. Farmers are reporting a perfect storm of conditions, with inflation causing the cost of doing business to escalate significantly over the past 2 years, while the saturated market in California has left many growers with few options. In California, farmers must have a license in order to manufacture the crop. The law requires that all sales must be made within the state, but according to law enforcement, more than 60% of suppliers are unlicensed. Bill Thomas, NTD News, California.
As we've seen, laws constantly change throughout the U.S. and California. Do some laws that passed that don't make sense? A former California state senator shares what she has seen changed in the legislature in the past decade.
Melissa Melendez, who served in the California legislature for 10 years, talks about how laws have changed and why certain California policies are not delivering what they're supposed to. The 55-year-old says it's very rare that a bill gets dropped in committee because legislators don't want to drop each other's proposed bills.
So if you and I are Democrats and you're on the committee, let's say public safety, and I bring my bill forward and you don't like my bill and you grill me on my bill during the committee hearing and you very clearly state you're not really happy with my bill, you're still going to vote for it. You're going to put it through. Why? Because next week you have a bill coming through my committee and you don't want me to kill your bill, especially if I'm the chair of that committee. So they just push everything through and say, Governor, you deal with it.
Melendez says this approach is risky.
I've seen so many bills get through committee hearings and get to his desk that I never in a million years thought would make it to him, and they certainly wouldn't have made it to him 10 years ago.
In addition, she shares that leaders of union groups have leverage over politicians.
I have been in committee hearings where I have seen union leaders standing at the back of the hearing room, nodding their head yes or no to the members sitting on that dais when it came time to vote, and that is no joke.
The committee chairman or chairwoman have authority to shut down a bill before it gets a hearing.
Now they do that sometimes, rarely, but sometimes they'll do it with a Democrat bill. Usually that's a bill that's way too controversial, that causes problems within their own party, and so they don't want to touch it. So generally leadership will say, do not hear that bill. And then the chair will say, okay, we're not going to set that bill for a hearing. Mostly it's Republican bills, but to be fair, occasionally it is Democrat bills. But it used to be every bill got a hearing. Every bill had its day in the committee, and pass or fail, it still had a hearing and it was still debated.
She says that is no longer the case. Moving forward, she believes legislators should be able to discern bills, recognizing whether previous policies are effective or not.
To watch the full program, you can find California Insider on Epic TV's website or YouTube. Now, did you know we have a beauty pageant coming up? The first NTD Global Chinese Beauty Pageant doesn't only celebrate natural beauty. It also has a mission to educate women about traditional Chinese values. NTD's Arlene Richards spoke with the pageant's honorary advisors to get their thoughts on the pageant's mission.
Beauty pageants help women showcase their beauty, both inside and out. The first NTD Global Chinese Beauty Pageant is no exception. Its mission is to educate young Chinese women about their heritage and to instill in them the traditional values of ancient Chinese culture. Alexander Yannick, a leading client advisor and stylist in the high fashion industry, and Jackie Phillips, a celebrity makeup artist, television personality, and author, shared their thoughts on the pageant's mission.
I feel like the values is like the overall arch of it all, which is the most important thing. I love that it's about traditions. You know, we're losing traditions in this world, and they're so important. Having wisdom, and that's the inner wisdom, you know, and trusting that, and kindness. I mean, all those things is what sets this pageant apart. I don't think there's anything like it in the world.
The pageant will challenge contestants to use their beauty for a higher purpose by extolling these 5 inner virtues: morality, righteousness, propriety, benevolence, and faithfulness. Phillips said beauty comes from the heart.
I think using your words kindly and positively can make you the most beautiful person in the world.
Contestants will be evaluated based on their responses to judges' questions, their evening gown and national costume presentations, and their creative talents.
This is a new generation. I really want to see them not just outside, but I love to see more inside, really deep. And I think this, we can look in not just the beauty, but again, intelligent, wisdoms, knowledge, and I want to see them, growing to show new generation it's not just the beauty, but so much they can offer.
The grand prize winner will be crowned Miss NTD and receive a $10,000 cash prize, a sapphire and diamond encrusted tiara, and a selection of fine jewelry and designer dresses. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
The concept of floating solar is already going strong in Asia. It doesn't take up a lot of land and could help prevent water loss to evaporations at the same time. Now, developers are taking inspiration from that growth, and the technology starts to spread more quickly in the United States.
Floating solar panel farms are beginning to boom in the U.S. after rapid growth in Asia. They're attractive not just for their clean power and lack of land footprint, but because they also conserve water by preventing evaporation. One of the biggest floating solar farms in the U.S. is the 4.8 megawatt project in Healdsburg, California, built by Seal and Terre. Nearby in the town of Windsor, California, the floating solar company has already placed solar panels on a wastewater treatment facility.
You're looking at a wastewater treatment pond, and behind me you'll see a 1.8 megawatt floating solar system that Cielo built about 3 or 4 years ago. One of the first ones here in California, one of the first over a megawatt here in California, and it's been operating without problem for 4 years now.
Panels are attached onto rafts so they float on water instead of blocking off land that could be used for agriculture or buildings. The panels are sealed and act as a lid that brings evaporation down to nearly zero, a perk which benefits drought-stricken regions like California. The water also keeps the panels cool, allowing them to generate more electricity than their land-mounted counterparts, which lose efficiency when they become too hot. The company already built 270 projects in 30 countries. Bartle says that limited land has encouraged other countries to expand floating solar.
Asia took off pretty quickly. Asia, especially island nations like Japan and Taiwan, were very keen on floating solar because they just didn't have a lot of land for large-scale ground mount solar. So that's been our fastest growing market and continues to be our fastest growing market.
Duke Energy, a large utility company that owns some 11,000 megawatts of generation, is aiming to achieve net zero carbon emissions from electricity production by 2050. It is launching a small floating solar pilot just shy of 1 megawatt in Bartow, Florida.
So it's really important to do these innovative projects and test out new technology. We always need to find new ways to have clean energy on the grid, something that's not as traditional as we've been experimenting with or been doing. So the floating solar is nice. We'll be able to use different bodies of water that aren't really used for recreational purposes.
But high upfront costs remain a barrier. Bartle says deeper water can increase installation costs, and the technology can't operate on fast-moving water on the open ocean or shorelines with large waves. He estimates floating solar costs 10 to 15% more than land solar initially, but owners save money in the long run. Engineers are working on other challenges. If the solar panels cover too much of the water's body surface, dissolved oxygen levels could change and water temperature will drop, which could harm aquatic life. Researchers are looking into whether the electromagnetic fields generated by cables could negatively influence aquatic ecosystems. However, there's no evidence of that yet.
Now let's check in with NTD's Tyler Castillo for our sports roundup, where the Warriors stay alive.
Let's dive into the sports roundup for today. I'm Tyler Castillo.
The Golden State Warriors were victorious on Wednesday afternoon in San Francisco, keeping them alive from the Los Angeles Lakers, where LA still leads the series 3-2. Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, and Stephen Curry helped the Warriors by each getting over 20 points, with Curry leading with 27 points. The Warriors started the game with the first 2 quarters getting more than 30 points. The Lakers' LeBron James and Anthony Davis both got over 20 points, with James leading with 25 points for LA. Game 6 will take place on Friday at 7 o'clock in Los Angeles. Warriors 121, Lakers 106. The NHLTed Lindsay Award is handed out annually to the most outstanding player in the regular season. The finalists this year include San Jose Sharks defenseman Erik Karlsson, who's already a finalist for the James Norris Trophy. Erik Karlsson has led the NHL with points from a defenseman and led the Sharks team with 101 points. The other finalists are Edmonton Oilers' Connor McDavid and Boston Bruins' David Pastrnak. Freddie Freeman hit a home run, Clayton Kershaw went 7 strong innings, and Los Angeles completed a 6-game road trip with a victory over Milwaukee. Freeman, who finished with 3 RBIs, joined Will Smith in belting back-to-back home runs in the 4th inning. Miguel Vargas also went deep as the Dodgers won for the 10th time in their last 12 games and went 4-2 on a trip that also included a stop at San Diego. Kershaw rebounded from a rocky start against the Padres on Friday by allowing 1 run on 5 hits, with no walks and 8 strikeouts. It was Kershaw's 3rd start of at least 7 innings. Dodgers 8, Brewers 1.
And that is all for the sports roundup for today.
Thanks, Tyler, and that's all we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8:30 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcasts on our California Today webpage. You can find it at ntd.com/California-Today. You can also find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with friends and family. Send us a message on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.